The camera opens on a breathtaking African village, nestled in a valley surrounded by lush, green hills. The sun rises over the horizon, casting a warm, golden glow across the land, while the sounds of nature fill the air, the chirping of birds, the rustling of trees, and the soft murmur of the wind. Villagers move through their day, their faces bright with purpose. Some are harvesting crops, others are crafting baskets, and children run through the dirt paths, their laughter ringing out like music in the morning air. Life here seems perfect, untouched by the outside world, a community bound together by the land they cherish. Among them is Amma, a young woman with an unshakable presence. She works effortlessly in the fields, her hands strong but gentle as she tends to the crops. Her skin gleams in the sunlight, and her eyes are sharp, betraying a mind much sharper than most people realize. Amma is known for her kindness and wisdom. She's not just a villager, she's the heart of this place. People come to her for advice, to share their worries, or to seek help. Whether she's advising a young mother or giving a hand to a neighbor, Amma does it all with grace, earning the respect and admiration of everyone around her. As she works, Amma pauses for a moment, standing tall and looking out over the village. The wind picks up, ruffling her hair as she takes a deep breath, her gaze fixed on the distant horizon. There's a sense of calm about her, a deep connection to the earth and the life she's built here. But despite the peace that surrounds her, there's a flicker of unease in her eyes, a feeling that something is coming. Something she cannot yet see, but knows will change everything. The storm brewing on the horizon is not just one of nature, but of fate. And Amma, unknowingly, is about to find herself at the center of a battle she never imagined. The sun hangs high in the sky, casting a bright light over the peaceful village, when suddenly, the sound of hooves breaks the calm. Dust rises from the dirt path as Kwame, a middle-aged man, rides into the village on a sleek, black horse. His clothes are rich and finely made, an elaborate robe of deep red and gold fabric that glimmers in the sunlight, an extravagant sight amidst the humble simplicity of the villagers. His boots are polished, his hands adorned with rings, and his overall appearance stands in stark contrast to the worn, earth-tone clothes of the villagers. As Kwame approaches, the villagers stop and stare, their curiosity piqued by the stranger. His eyes glint with a mixture of confidence and calculation, a sly grin curling at the corners of his lips. He rides through the village like a man who believes he owns it, his gaze cold and assessing. The villagers watch from a distance, unsure of his intentions, but polite nonetheless. Kwame dismounts and offers a low, exaggerated bow to the crowd, the motion as smooth and practiced as his words. His voice is rich, smooth, and dripping with charm as he introduces himself. "Greetings, good people of this fine village. I am Kwame, a trader from lands far beyond the hills. I have traveled many days to find such a peaceful and prosperous place. I have goods to offer, fine cloth, spices, and treasures from distant kingdoms." The villagers eye him with skepticism, but they are too polite to outright reject him. They murmur among themselves, wondering if this man really has anything of value. But it's clear that Kwame has something else in mind. He's not just here to trade goods, but to find something far more precious. In the background, Amma is watching from a distance. She notices the man's over-the-top behavior, the extravagant display, and the way he looks at the villagers, not with kindness, but with a calculating, almost predatory gleam. She can sense that this man is no ordinary trader. Kwame isn't just here to make a fair exchange, he's here for something else, something he believes he can take from the simple people of this village, and most likely, from Amma herself. The market square bustles with activity as villagers gather to trade goods under the hot midday sun. The smell of fresh produce and fragrant spices fills the air. People laugh, barter, and greet each other with warmth, their faces content with the simple pleasures of the day. Amma is there, surrounded by baskets of fruits and vegetables, exchanging some freshly harvested crops with her neighbors. She's calm, collected, and radiates an energy that seems to draw people toward her. From across the market, Kwame eyes her, a sly grin playing on his lips. Dressed in his elaborate robes, he moves through the crowd like a man on a mission, his sharp eyes calculating, assessing. He carries a large basket in his hands, filled with glittering items, beads of every color, intricately woven cloths that shimmer, and rare spices wrapped in silk. The goods catch the light, their vibrancy contrasting with the simpler, earthy wares of the villagers. Kwame walks toward Amma, his steps confident, purposeful. When he reaches her, he pauses, offering her a charming bow, his voice smooth as honey. "Ah, Amma," he begins, "I've heard much about you. A woman of great wisdom, grace, and, I'm sure, a keen sense for rare treasures. Perhaps you might be interested in a trade?" Amma looks up at him, the warmth of her smile never fading, but her eyes cautious, watching him closely. She's seen traders like him before, smooth talkers with shiny goods and promises too good to be true. Kwame continues, his tone persuasive, "I offer you treasures from distant lands, beads that are said to bring fortune, cloth that the kings themselves would wear, spices that could transform any meal into a feast. And in return, I ask only for one thing, the harvest from your finest crops." He gestures to the baskets of fruit she's selling, his eyes gleaming with an almost predatory excitement. Amma tilts her head slightly, her expression unreadable. She runs her fingers over the edge of the basket, studying the goods before her. She listens, her mind working as she carefully weighs his offer. The trader's words are tempting, too tempting. It sounds like a gift beyond measure, a chance to change her life and the lives of her people. But Amma knows better than to trust such a smooth-talking stranger. There's something off in the way he speaks, something that doesn't sit right. Her instincts tell her this is no simple trade. Kwame has come here not to offer her a fair deal, but to exploit her goodwill. He believes he can fool her into giving him the best of her crops for worthless trinkets. But Amma is no fool. She has lived in this village her whole life, seen many traders, and heard their empty promises. She knows exactly what kind of man he is. Amma stands up straighter, her gaze unwavering. She doesn't speak at first, her silence almost more powerful than any words. She lets Kwame think he's won, lets him believe that his charm has worked. Finally, she smiles softly, but her eyes remain sharp. "Your goods are indeed beautiful," she says calmly, "but I value the life of this village more than I value riches that come with deception." Kwame's smile falters for just a moment, but he quickly recovers, his eyes narrowing slightly. He wasn't expecting her to be so wise, to see through his ruse so quickly. He thought she was just a simple village woman, someone he could easily manipulate. But now, he knows he's met someone far cleverer than he anticipated. The sun begins to dip behind the hills, casting long shadows over the village. The peaceful hum of the day fades, and the quiet of the evening settles in. In a quiet corner of the village, beneath a tall tree with thick branches that sway gently in the breeze, Amma sits alone. Her legs are crossed beneath her, and she stares at the ground in deep thought. The basket of goods Kwame had left behind sits next to her, a collection of shimmering beads, luxurious cloth, and exotic spices, beautiful, yes, but nothing more than a mirage in her eyes. Alma's face is calm, but beneath the stillness, her mind is working at full speed. She picks up a small stick and begins to trace shapes in the dirt. The lines are sharp and purposeful, like the strokes of a masterful painter. She draws a series of symbols and patterns, slowly building up a plan. Each mark she makes is calculated, a step toward her goal. Her brow furrows slightly as she pauses to consider her next move, her gaze fixed on the dirt beneath her, the designs taking form in front of her. A faint smile tugs at the corner of her lips as the plan unfolds in her mind. Her eyes glimmer with an inner fire, a sense of quiet determination settling over her. Amma is not just a simple village woman, she's far more than the outsider Kwame presumed her to be. Her years of learning from the elders, her connection to the wisdom of the land, have prepared her for moments like this. She knows that sometimes, in order to defeat evil, one must play the game with even greater cunning. Kwame may have thought he was clever, but Amma has something he doesn't: patience, wisdom, and a mind sharp enough to outwit him at his own game. She looks up for a moment, gazing at the village around her, the homes, the people, the crops they depend on. Her expression softens for a second, then hardens again with resolve. This is her village, her home, and she will not allow it to fall prey to a deceptive stranger. Amma stands up slowly, brushing the dirt from her hands as she looks at the designs in the earth. The plan is set. It's simple, but brilliant. Kwame thinks he can cheat her, trick her into giving away her precious harvest for nothing, but he has no idea what she has in store for him. As the sun begins to set, casting the village in a warm amber glow, Amma walks calmly toward her modest hut, her face a mask of serene confidence. Inside, the atmosphere is simple but welcoming: wooden walls adorned with woven tapestries, a small fire crackling in the hearth, and the faint smell of herbs and cooked food in the air. She moves with purpose, preparing a humble meal, the sounds of clattering pots and soft murmurs of firewood filling the space. Kwame arrives shortly, his steps still as confident and assured as before. He enters the hut, looking around with a touch of disdain at the simplicity of the home, his eyes scanning every corner as if calculating the worth of everything he sees. Amma greets him with a polite nod, offering him a seat by the fire. "Welcome, Kwame," she says, her voice smooth yet tinged with an air of mystery. "Please, sit and share this meal with me. You've traveled far, and it is only right that a guest be treated with the respect they deserve." Kwame, eager to strike a deal, accepts without hesitation, sitting down and eyeing the food in front of him. He watches her every move, still calculating how best to extract the village's wealth from Amma. As he eats, Amma remains calm, her eyes never leaving his face. There's a quiet tension in the air, as if both are aware that a game is being played, though only one of them is truly in control. After a few moments, Amma rises from her seat, moving with a fluid grace to a nearby chest. She opens it slowly, revealing a stunning necklace crafted from rare stones, deep green emeralds, glowing opals, and polished silver. The necklace sparkles in the dim light, each stone catching the firelight, casting shimmering reflections on the walls. It's unlike anything Kwame has ever seen, more beautiful than any of the treasures he's brought from distant lands. Amma walks back toward him, holding the necklace out with a small smile. "I've made this," she says softly. "It's a gift, a token of our trade. You will find no treasure more beautiful than this, I assure you." Kwame's eyes widen as he takes in the sight of the necklace. His lips curl into a greedy smile. The necklace is more exquisite than anything he has. His mind races with thoughts of what he could sell it for, how much he could profit. This is truly beautiful," he says, his voice dripping with desire. "I accept your offer, Amma. I will trade you my finest goods for this treasure. You've made a wise choice." Amma doesn't flinch, doesn't show any sign of hesitation. She smiles knowingly, but there's a spark of something deeper in her eyes, a quiet satisfaction. She knows the necklace's true worth is not in its beauty, but in the twist she's about to reveal. Kwame eagerly hands over his treasures, placing the basket of beads, cloth, and spices at her feet, his hands shaking slightly with excitement. He thinks he has outwitted her, thinking he's made a perfect deal. But the moment he places the items in her hands, Amma's smile widens, and her eyes gleam with a quiet triumph. Amma takes the necklace from him and places it carefully around his neck. But there's a secret to the necklace he doesn't know. The stones are enchanted, a charm placed on them by the village elders, meant for those with ill intentions. The moment the necklace touches his skin, Kwame feels a strange weight settle on him, his throat tightening. He blinks in confusion, feeling a sudden wave of unease wash over him, but he says nothing. Amma watches him closely, her expression serene, but her eyes sparkling with the knowledge of what's to come. She has turned the tables, and Kwame, greedy and unaware, has fallen right into her trap. The scene opens with Kwame walking hurriedly down the village path, his heart pounding with triumph. The necklace gleams brightly against his chest, and he grins to himself, thinking he has outsmarted Amma. The precious jewels and treasures he's just acquired feel like a victory. He believes he's walked away with more than he could have ever hoped for, his greed satisfied for the moment. But as he strides farther from the village, a strange sensation begins to creep over him. It starts with a faint dizziness, a slight lightheadedness. He shakes his head, trying to brush it off, but it only grows stronger. His body feels heavier, his legs sluggish, as though something is weighing him down. He stumbles for a moment but continues walking, hoping to distance himself from the village and the woman he now believes he has bested. Suddenly, he stops. The necklace, once just a beautiful piece of jewelry, begins to glow with an eerie, unnatural light. A soft, pulsing glow, like the beating of a distant heart, emanates from the stones. The bright light seems to pulse with an energy that seems to bind him in place. His breath catches, and his pulse quickens as he feels a wave of panic wash over him. The necklace feels like it's tightening around his throat, as though it has become alive, its magic slowly taking hold. His vision starts to blur, and the dizziness intensifies. Kwame stumbles, gripping the necklace in an attempt to remove it, but his fingers slip. The more he struggles, the tighter the glow seems to pulse around him, locking him in place. His body feels as if it's being drawn in by an invisible force. He looks around in desperation, but the village seems so far away now, and his vision is fading. Meanwhile, back in the village, Amma watches from a distance, standing calmly under the shade of the tree, her eyes fixed on Kwame. She raises her hand slightly, just a subtle motion, but it's enough. At her signal, the villagers, hidden in plain sight, blending with the natural surroundings, spring into action. They move quickly, pulling out small bundles of cloth and secret tools, uncovering the truth about the goods Kwame had offered. One by one, the villagers unroll the fabrics Kwame had claimed were precious silks, only to find they were cheap imitations, dull, worn, and stitched poorly. The spices he had promised were nothing more than ordinary herbs. The so-called treasures were all worthless. What Kwame had attempted to deceive them with were simply empty promises, meant to manipulate and take advantage of the trust of the kind-hearted villagers. The scene opens with Kwame on his knees, his face pale and drenched in sweat, still clutching the glowing necklace that has now lost its light. The magical force that had bound him is beginning to dissipate, but the damage is done. His arrogance has been shattered, and he is left humbled, vulnerable, and desperate. His hands tremble as he tries to remove the necklace one last time, but it's futile. The enchanted piece of jewelry is no longer his prize, but his downfall. Around him, the villagers have gathered, their faces a mix of stern resolve and quiet triumph. They had watched as Kwame struggled, as the truth unfolded before him. Each of them knew the deceit he had tried to weave, but now, they see him for what he truly is, nothing more than a manipulative, greedy man who underestimated the wisdom of their community. They remain silent, forming a circle around him, but their presence is enough. The weight of their collective gaze is heavy, making it clear that no mercy will be shown for a man who sought to destroy their way of life. Amma steps forward, her movements graceful and measured. The moment she appears, the crowd quiets, the air thick with anticipation. She approaches Kwame with a calm yet commanding presence, her eyes steady and unwavering. She doesn't look down at him with anger or contempt, but with quiet sympathy, a knowing look that shows she had anticipated this moment long before it arrived. In her gaze, there is strength, but also a hint of sadness, as if she mourns the wasted potential of a man who could have chosen a different path. Kwame's eyes flick up at her, his face contorted with desperation. "Please. Amma. I was wrong," he stammers, his voice breaking as the arrogance he had once worn like armor crumbles. I didn't mean to harm you or your people. I beg for your forgiveness. Please, spare me." His hands are outstretched, pleading for mercy, but the words seem empty, hollow, as though he knows the damage is irreversible. Amma looks down at him for a moment, her expression unreadable. The necklace now lies still, no longer glowing, no longer powerful. It has done its work, exposing the truth. And with that, Amma speaks, not in anger, but in calm authority, her voice carrying across the gathered villagers. "It is not the treasures of this world that make us rich, Kwame," she says, her words clear and resolute. "But the wisdom to see through deception." Her words land like a soft but firm blow, and Kwame flinches as if the truth stings. He looks at the villagers, each of them watching him with unwavering eyes, and it's clear there is no place for him here. The community he sought to deceive has seen through his lies, and now, he is exposed for the fraud he truly is. The scene opens with Kwame walking slowly out of the village, his head lowered in shame. His once proud posture is now slumped, his steps heavy with the weight of defeat. The necklace that had once gleamed with false promise now dangles lifelessly around his neck, a reminder of his greed and deception. The villagers, standing in quiet formation, watch him leave without a word. The satisfaction of justice is silent, but palpable. There are no jeers or shouts, only the stillness that accompanies the fall of a man who thought himself invincible. As Kwame disappears into the distance, Amma steps forward, her figure standing tall in the center of the village. Her calm presence draws the attention of everyone around her. The villagers, who had been watching in silence, now begin to approach her, their faces reflecting a deep sense of gratitude and admiration. Their eyes shine with respect not only for what she had done, but for who she was. Amma, the wise woman, had outwitted the trickster, safeguarded the village, and taught them all the true value of wisdom over wealth. A chorus of cheers erupts from the crowd, and some villagers clap their hands in celebration. A few come forward, offering heartfelt thanks. "Amma, we are forever in your debt," one of the elders says, bowing slightly in reverence. You saved us all. Others nod in agreement, their voices a mix of awe and gratitude. Amma, however, does not bask in their praise. Her expression is serene, almost as if she expected no less. She smiles softly but does not seek the spotlight. Amma's strength has always been quiet, the kind that comes not from power or pride, but from wisdom, patience, and a deep understanding of her people. Her satisfaction comes not from the adoration of the villagers, but from the knowledge that the village's safety and harmony have been restored. She nods in acknowledgement of their gratitude, her eyes warm, but then, without hesitation, she turns and begins walking toward the fields. The work is not done. There is always more to be done, and Amma knows that true leadership is found not in grand gestures, but in the steady, unwavering work that keeps the village thriving. As she walks, the sun begins to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows and bathing the village in a rich golden glow. The villagers return to their routines, their spirits lighter now, knowing that they are stronger and wiser because of Amma's actions. The peaceful hum of village life resumes, and the sounds of the day, children laughing, the rustle of leaves, the clinking of tools, fill the air once more. The air itself feels different, somehow fresher, as if a weight has been lifted. The camera pans out, showing the village bathed in the warm, fading light of the sunset. The fields stretch out endlessly, dotted with workers who now labor not out of fear or oppression, but from a renewed sense of unity and purpose. Amma continues to work quietly among them, her hands steady, her spirit unshaken.